It's all yours, gentlemen.
Okay, my name is Atle Bjerck. I'm here with Eirik Wilberg. The one has been paying my salary for the last year or something like that. I'd also like to mention Atle, which sits in row number 2 here. Wave a little bit, Ari. Yeah. He's together with us on the project. We will show you an example what we've done for Pareto. That means some customizations, some integrations, a little bit of the system. But Eirik will talk a little bit in some minutes and tell us what Pareto does for a living.
Yes, thank you. Just a short presentation of the company so you know who we are and a bit about why we chose SuperOffice. So Pareto Securities is an independent full-service investment bank, and we have a leading position in the Nordic capital market across all sectors, and a strong international presence, especially within the energy and the maritime sector. We are a complete investment bank, offering corporate finance and advisory services, equity and debt capital market, company research, project finance, and asset and contract brokerage. Pareto Securities have approximately 360 employees in 14 offices in 9 countries. We are a part of a large group called the Pareto Group, and we are the biggest company there. And with the other companies, we are supported with their expertise in shipping, offshore, and real estate. And the Pareto Group was established in 1986 and have totally about 550 employees. As you may see here, we have the international presence and can therefore create a global variety of transactions. And just to know how busy we are, in the last 3 years, we have done more than 550 transactions with our corporate clients. That's enough about our company. Just short about why we chose SuperOffice. In 2008, when I started in the company, in a division called Pareto Online, we started using Microsoft. And in 2010, we merged with Pareto Securities, and we brought then the Microsoft CRM system to Pareto. Since then, we have grown both organic and by acquisitions, so we now needed a new common CRM system. And due to one large acquisition in 2015, we had 2 CRM systems. We had Microsoft and we had SuperOffice. So in the spring 2015, or in the winter 2015, we started looking at Salesforce, Microsoft, and SuperOffice. And we ended up with SuperOffice. Some of our most important factors when we chose the CRM system was to be able to continue the business-to-customer approach we had from before. We wanted to continue using some of the functionality we had created in the old system, which were the full client establishment in the system, and event registration and RoadShow booking for our clients. We also needed to minimize the risk of duplicates since we're merging 2 systems. We also wanted to exploit the CRM system for cross-selling within our departments. And last but not least, a seamless integration with our business systems, like creating clients, setting up web access, trading access, portfolio access, subscriptions, and so on. So we chose CRM Insight and Atle here as a partner in the summer 2015, and we launched our new CRM system now in April. It's been using it now for about 7 months. So Atle is going now to show you a bit of what we have done to our system.
2 seconds about CRM Insight. We formally was established in 2008, but as many of you others, we've been working with SuperOffice for 20 years or more, some of us. So we have the owl here, of course. We went into like most of the other partners in Norway, into a Visma partner, bought CRM Insight 2 years ago, so we're now part of a bigger group. But we have done a lot of customizations. That's been a big deal of our business for all years, doing modifications, doing implementations for customers. But this is the most extensive customization we've done, because it has been so many angles and so many parts. We've been working with SuperOffice consultants as well. Michelle, who probably a lot of you know, has done a lot of customizations in service, which I'll show you. And this is expandable, but we have half an hour, so we can't go into all details on how we do things. We will, of course, could dig into that later if somebody is interested. We will show you some of the modifications we've done, some of the customizations, explain what we use, what we've done, and I do think that we could take the questions afterwards, or maybe in a summary, but feel free if there's something you don't understand. A simple modification is, Pareto says it's stupid that you have to enter the address first and then afterwards change the country, and then the address layout changes because that's dynamic in SuperOffice. You lose things you put in. Idiots. You have to do something about it. Okay, we do something about it. We just reorder the fields. We put the country. This is how it's done, how it's normally. This is how it looks at Pareto. And they're happy. One of my job has been telling them what costs a lot of money and what is easy. So Eirik and his colleagues asking for functionality, we will discuss, is this necessary? Is this something that we really need to do? Is it a minor thing? This was a minor thing. How do we do this? Several ways of making customizations to SuperOffice. In Guttorm's slide, I think we cover all of the 4 boxes we do. We use all the tools that is available for us to do the modifications. And in this case, we alter the definition of the screen, saying that this field should be before the other fields. And that's some change we have to do in the code. And what happens when we upgrade the system? As you probably know, such modifications are placed in a separate directory in SuperOffice Web, so that it's not overwritten, but it's SuperOffice picks this code to run instead of the other code. So when SuperOffice places an upgrade, we have to see that things works, that our modification works. Atle has a tool he uses called Beyond Compare. I think that's one of his favorite tools, to see what's happened between the new version and the original version, and then decides what to do. This is a simple modification, but important. A more extensive change and I think that's something that is interesting for a lot of companies, is more than one our contact, more than one responsible for a company card. And instead of, Pareto has that, of course, and we didn't want to implement it as you normally do, make several fields for who is responsible, number 1 or 2, or which role they are responsible for. So we made what we call a team. Of course, a native SuperOffice tab. We don't do things that isn't SuperOffice. We try to use SuperOffice tools as much as we can, where you can add, you can delete, you can export, you can configure the columns, you can configure sort and everything. And where you press the add, you get a dialog asking where yourself is, of course, pre-filled, and where you can put in yourself and the role on that customer. How do we do that? We use service for storing all the extra data. We did use the SuperOffice data dictionary before, but not on this project at all. We made the custom archive, which you probably heard through other Expander worlds, and they are really, really useful. We make what we call a custom page and a data handler to work with that page, to save the data, or to delete the data, or to change the data. And we also tagged into admin so that you could remove this salesperson from all the clients when you do some kind of portfolio change, or
when he quits.
When he quits, when he leaves. We also used a lot of extensive using functional rights to change. That means that you don't, if you not have a right, you're not able to change anyone else's record to I'm a salesperson to this customer. And we use it for limit the number of leads a broker can have. So they can't tag their name into all the customers. So there's a rule here saying that when you are that kind of salesperson, you're not allowed to have more than 30 or 50 leads. Here we use a technique which calls merge files. That means that we try to minimize what we change. That means that only the parts that are needed for these modifications are put into the files, and therefore we don't have to check all the definitions. We just check these parts that we have modified, and that's a nice feature of SuperOffice Web. That's not perfect. Doesn't work everywhere, but it works a lot more places now than in the old 6 Web. When you put in such a thing as this is a new entity, you also have to support searching for this. You probably see an EDS search from Advisa doing the same. That means that we put in a Pareto. Some places we put it in the company, some places we put it in the Pareto. Here is on the company. You can see that we have team responsible and team role as objects to search for. And how do we do that? We have to plug in a lot of places. Everywhere you can search for our contact today, we put in search support for team roles. That means searching for contact, appointments, etc. And we use a technique called a table extender, which is logic that we put into the default SuperOffice code and implement our search logic in addition. And this is code, this is C# code, which is put into the bin folder, and that's the only thing we have to do. We just put it in. Of course, if the integration or the interfaces changes, we have to see that it works when you upgrade. Maybe you have to do some more verifications, but this is it's a lot of things that's implemented this way. I'm hurrying up. This is what you call tastings. What Eirik mentioned here is that we had to do something about the business to consumer way, or how is a person in SuperOffice. And this was one of the big discussions when we were trying to convince them that we could deliver a system. We didn't want to we didn't want to copy how this is done in for instance, Dynamics. We did want that person entity, or the record of the person, to be under each company card. The way that SuperOffice does it, so that we could see which company he belonged to, so that we could mail and do things. And we did carry over. Those of you working with Microsoft know that GUIDs is their idle ID. So we put in a GUID, and we use the GUID as the way of saying that this is the common, these persons are linked together. As you can see, we have modified so that we can see here which companies this person is linked to. So we do visualize that. We search, I come to that in a second. We do synchronize updates. It means that when you update a phone number or an email address on a card, it's synced to all the others. We had some discussions about what should be local and what should be synced, but that's an easy configuration if we want to change that. And most of all, we do expose these multiple persons as one person, one entity, to the other systems that is used to that. We have systems, for instance, on the web, where the user can log in, and to be able to log in, they have only one. They have only one login, even if they are connected to several companies in SuperOffice. One of the most important things is that we put in. You can't add when you press add to a contact person in SuperOffice. You don't get the person dialog. You get this dialog, where you can search. This is pretty easy search. We just have a search field, and we have some logic how to parse that. And we can say, will you search against a contact, an email, or a mobile? And you get all the hits in the database. And either you just double-click on that, and then you connect. Then you get up the person dialog, and they're connected. Or you can force to create a new one. But that's the way we try to minimize the duplicates. How's that? It's a custom page with an archive provider with the list here, and our users Ajax calls to update the SuperOffice data behind. So it's not much data when we link. We just create the data and open up the person card. What we then had to do is that we on the activities, we extended so you can see the company name as well, so that you can, when you're in a person, you can see all the activities from that person, even from other company cards. And that's a technique of extending the archive providers. Archive providers are, if you have to do such modifications, you just have to learn how to do that. What we do is that we just modify what the archive provider did, how it gets the data. So we say that you shouldn't only get the data for this company, you should get data from all the linked companies, and just pushes the company name to the screen as well. Next topic. One of the issues from the old system was that the integration wasn't foolproof. What they've done in Microsoft was creating interests, the same way that SuperOffice has interests, with the tags this person has on the web. What you see here is what the company, or what the user selects on the web. I'm interested in getting mails about banks, all banks, or these particular banks. one of the things that Pareto does is they do extensive marketing. They produce a lot of documentation that you can follow as an investor. And what we, of course, want to do is to find out who's interested in DNB or Nordea or another bank or which sector, and send them some more information or invite them to a seminar or something like that. And instead of syncing all these interests into SuperOffice, meaning that when you create something new on the screen, on the web, you have to define it in SuperOffice as well. We said that we don't care. We just frame this screen. That means that this SuperOffice don't know about this. It's a web page, as we always do, and using it instead. I'll come back to what we do with it, what we do with this information. We also frames edit screens. This is a screen for the admin saying that this user should have this and this access to this kind of system. So the persons that are allowed to use this can use SuperOffice as the portal to access data for back office systems. And we do put use of functional rights, saying that you should either just see the data here, or you could edit the data as well. We make custom screens instead of linking data. This is some test data, yeah, but this is data. This is accounts in their trading system, where we show information about this account. It's an account like a bank account, you could, or a trading account, what it's called. Why do we do it this way? There wasn't a website or a screen with this kind of information in their old systems, but they had the data. In fact, this data from 3 systems now, which Pareto puts in a database, and we are showing the data. This is read-only data. There's nothing you can do with it. We also read some data from services instead of reading from databases, but that's easy peasy, Atle says, no problem to get data from other sources as long as we have an ID. It's done the same way, but what we do as well is that we make all these fields available for searching, and that's a way of minimizing integration or synchronization. Is that instead of syncing the data into SuperOffice, we let the data be where it is and set up searches to search for that data instead. I'll show you an example in just a minute. We made a mini card. This is the we had some discussions about how it should look. Oh yeah, we had some. It now has the functionality to show different ID icons of where it depending on which product they are allowed to trade. That's one view that gives the broker or everyone very quick look. This person or this company is cleared for trading this and this kind of product, and that's very important that we do it the right way. If you haven't told the customer about risks, you're not allowed to sell them anything that has some risks. Correct. And this is the way for the broker to do things in the system. He sees things. He or she, mostly he, see which countries they clear to trade in, and this is this is code. This is a mini card with data, which reads data, and we have some structures about how we should show the icons and text and so on. But we've done it so flexible that it shouldn't be, when they come up with the product or two new, it should be easy to put it in. Another mini card or things we've done is that we made a checklist for creating a project. This is for a special or a simpler way of making a project. They have some forms that should be filled out, and we do see when we log when things are done, who's done it, and this is hard-coded and with some follow-up status as well, but it does have a logic about uploading documents. You can click on, if I click on this one, you get an upload, which utilizes, of course, the Tray app. And when the document is created as a document on the project as well, and it's checked that this document is in place. You've done that phase in the creation. The mini card again. What we've done here is to mention is that here we support a direct edit with no save and cancel button. It's just something that you press and it's instantly saved. And we have built in some logic about who's allowed to do that. When everything is done, it comes up with a separate button here saying for the master controller that this is done, this is okay. Back to the search, which I mentioned earlier. This is native search in external systems. One of the problems with the Microsoft implementation was that this was not in sync, and it was hard when you made new criteria. This is how it looks. We have placed some search fields under the Pareto, meaning subscription. This is subscription. That means what is this user? What information does he or she subscribe to from Pareto? You get up. I select one subscription here. All companies. All of. That means that if I click 2 here, I had to subscribe on both to be selected, or any of, as you know from SuperOffice. The list here is populated. Before this screen is shown are the calls of web service, or REST service, which is provided from one of Eirik colleagues, which gives us these criteria. We show them the screen. User choose it. When you press OK, it sends those criteria to the REST service, which gets the data back. With which IDs maps with this subscription, and we maps them with the GUIDs on the person and shows the list. And that means everything is maintained outside instead of syncing into SuperOffice. Yeah, we did some training here. We did do some caching here to avoid calling the web service too often. We don't think that the list of criteria is updated more than a minute or two. So if it's fresh, we don't call it again. The screen that you saw from with the mini card. This is how the mini card is shown. Where this is a new customer. You say that you would create a registration. This is, I think, the area that we've used most time on. This was the first area we focused on as well. This is a dialogue that comes up where you can send an email with a package to the customer itself. You could choose a package. Or from Norway, you would get that kind of mail. From Finland, you could that kind of mail. Or you can just put it as a ticket to the back office. When we first got the requirements, we saw that this is perfect for customer service. So we did implement all this in customer service means that's not FAQ reply templates we use for this. So Eirik sets up new templates for himself and just be put into the system by us.
Yep.
I could use half an hour to go through the functionality here, but this is how, when you open up, open up a customer registration, you get a custom screen, CRM script. It's a lot of CRM script, and Michelle has done most of the work here, where it's a workflow saying that you have some buttons here, saying that this contract is sent, is it received? You can add a note, you can send a message to broker that this is not correct. So it's a kind of customized workflow that we implemented. An interesting thing is we made forms. This is a form saying where the broker has to go through and saying that I've checked that this is something real, it's not some money laundering thing. And he had to answer some questions. This was implemented the same way in Microsoft. We stole some ideas from that, but implemented it in customer service instead, giving such nice fields. And this is a structure in CS, of course, saying that here you should put up an HTML block containing this information. Here you have that kind. This is a radio button, and this is the values for the radio button. And Michelle has an engine that parses this and presents this as a screen. And of course, it's saved as a structured data in the database. So you can open up this form at a later time and see what's filled into the form. And that means that when it's versions and when compliance at Pareto says that this has to be changed, you have to remove that question, so add another question, we can put it in. We also have a checklist where the back office people uses for seeing have they done all they've done, implemented the same way. We have credit check. We call a web service for doing credit checks, reading data out from the provider. We have screens that we fill in here, which is put back into SuperOffice. And when you're ready doing everything, you can say, okay, is this okay, or should I convert the lead into a customer? And who's done all the steps are logged. And we use service selections for making lists on which customers are in which phases, so that the back office people can find this is something that has come back, this is something that's new. Extensive use of trying to use standard customer service to the extent as most possible. So that's I think if we should have done this logic without customer service, we've been using 3 or 4 times more hours to complete. So Pareto does a lot of marketing, conferences and events and road shows. That was something that was RoadShow was a functionality in the old system, events was not. When we did dig into it, we saw that we could combine these two. That means RoadShow, that's something where you take a customer with some Pareto employees and traveling around trying to get financed some things, or all the it could be introduction to the stock exchange, or a lot of, or selling the company. So and we have some control over that, and events are events. That's something that Pareto holds, but we want to be able to know who's coming and do some more efficiency around the events. This is a camouflaged screenshot from production. This is the September calendar view. As you see, this is how SuperOffice looks like for somebody who has all access. And when you press RoadShow, you get up this where calendar. You have an overview. You have this is forthcoming. This is history, and this is my RoadShows where I have some bookings. And I select the roadshow, I have a preview, and I can see who's attending which slots, as we call it, in the roadshow. That means that we do use SuperOffice, we use Project as the host, and we use have roadshow as a tab. When it's a type roadshow, this tab is enabled, and you put in some informations and you book slots. You mean that you add slots and you book slots. You can have slots for one-to-one or for lunch presentations and so on. Either the broker himself, or the broker does
broker,
it.
Yeah.
Puts participants into the slot and reserves it. And some logic here is saying that when I touch the slot, it's occupied for all others until I complete or free it. So it's kind of a booking scheme. And we also made, that's not a screen, that's just a screen I stole. We also made the bookings from roadshows to the pocket. That's not put into the, they've not got it on production yet, but that's something that they have some pretty simple ASP forms which they can access from Pocket, so that the user, the broker, can go into the Pocket, find the roadshow, see which slots are available, and book the current person or company into the roadshow. Events. We wanted to have the people using SuperOffice to be able to dynamically populate data on the web, on the Pareto Web. That means that when it's not this list, this is the CMS system itself, but when we want to use SuperOffice for the event, we define information in, as a project again, a custom screen for events, saying that this should be the theme, this should be the logo, this starts then and then, more logos, and some texts which are going into the template. And Magnus, Eirik's colleague, made a database. We tried to make it as a pool. That means we first made a REST service that they called for getting this data, but we saw that that was too expensive when there was a lot of visitors to the page. So we push it into a database, a CoachDB database on the web. So when this is saved, it's pushed to the web, or when it's published, it's pushed to the web. And the website uses a template which takes this data and some logic and makes a screen which is called something like this, where you see the information from SuperOffice. So it dynamically it gets an ID. What people do is that the marketing people are using mailings. That means that they create template for that event, and they tell the broker that if you want to invite your SuperOffice selection to this, you can use this template, or you can get an Outlook, so you can use for just sending one-on-one. And of course, we track all links, so we can see that the broker can see who's been clicking on the links, the normal way of you can do in mailings. And that was also one of the big things that we used to sell in the solution for the brokers, that they could send mailings and see who's interested. And it's of course then pre-filled. That means that when the link, if you click a link from mailing, it contains the who am I. First we had an ID and provided data with the service, but now we push it as parameters to the in the link, so it's inexpensive, it's pre-filled. And we have some things that you can invite some others. For now, this is registration back as a mail, which goes into service, but we will receive those data via web service and put them into SuperOffice without any more manual work. That's a to-do list, which we haven't done yet. Okay. Speed. It's a lot of things we haven't been able to show you. We have put in PBX dial, Søren, which we haven't rolled out yet. We've done some. We made several REST APIs. That means it's much simpler for an external system to call a REST service. Probably we'll show more about that later. Than calling the standard SuperOffice web services. We've done a lot of that earlier, making simpler SuperOffice web services or simpler web services for people to access data, either getting data out of SuperOffice or into SuperOffice. We've done a lot of things with the Sentry system, with both the standard logic of who is allowed to see your primary group and secondary groups and things, but we also protect, for instance, the projects, which you saw the project definition for. They are hidden for most of the people, and that is it's tough to do everything here because you're primarily allowed to lock down things. It's not so nice if you want to open up things. So we have some, there's some logic here. We do use the concept of functional rights a lot. That means that we, for instance, tags a functional right to a field in the More tab of the company, saying that only the groups that has these functional rights are allowed to see or edit that field, or access a button, or see some kind of information on a page. We do a lot of customizations with the archive providers. Means that we have some custom filtering and sorting and things, and more and more and more. So Eirik will be leaving for work.
Yep.
But if somebody wants to talk with him about these implementations, I guess that he will be able to answer some questions on the mail. Atle and I will be here for the whole event, so please feel free to ask some questions if there is something you would like to look into a little bit more detail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and take 15 minutes.